Hello, my friends. It's Mr. Hanson here again. This is the start of, uh, I guess, week 2 of online schooling. This is April 6th that we're starting on. So, my friends, this week we are starting the novel The Kite Runner. Now, I'm hoping that most of you have your copy of the book. If you do not, I have found a copy online. Um, it's listed right here on this link, the Kite Runner tentative reading schedule. So here's the copy. Also right here, guys, is we have a tentative schedule for how the rest of the trimester is going to go. Most of it's going to be based around the reading of this text, but I'll let you look at that on your own time. In addition to that, guys, I have provided some supplementary things here. So you're reading this week, you're going to go chapters 1 through 6, and it's about 60 pages. I think that is pretty doable if you average about 10 pages per day. Now, there's a lot of things that are mentioned in this book that you might not have much reference to. Now, this story takes place in Afghanistan, and this is actually my first time reading this book, and so I've had to do some supplementary research. I actually studied the Middle East quite a bit when I was in college, but it was nice to get a little refresher and look up some of the references that this book made mention of. So as a help to you, this is totally optional, by the way. I have put in some videos here of things that are mentioned within the book. So there's origins of the Hazara people. This kind of talks about the conflict between the Sunni and the Shia, I think. And then you have, he mentions Rumi, and he's a fantastic poet that is from the Middle East that I've got to study a little bit, and I have them listed here. There's sport events that are mentioned. There's things about where the name of the book comes from, The Kite Runner. I have videos here for. So, at your own discretion, if you want to look at this stuff, you're totally welcome to, but otherwise it's optional. So I have it here if you are interested or you want to know more about some of the things. Okay. In addition to everything else, guys, you do have a quiz this week. It just is to test you over the reading. It's all multiple choice, nothing too extensive. If you read the book, you should just be fine. If you go through and have not read it, it might be a little more difficult, but it's all multiple choice, pretty short. All right. And then your end thing for this week is we would like for you to create a discussion post. So the first thing that I want you to think about is Amir has a unique relationship with both his father Baba and the servant Hassan. In a paragraph or two, describe your impressions of the relationship between Amir and his father, or Amir and Hassan. And as you do this, I would like you to cite a passage as evidence. So if you read something that really resonates with you from the book, maybe just throw a quote in there and have that be kind of evidence for yourself. Okay. As a second part to this, guys, Amir has a really unique relationship with adults. He's just a young kid in the start of this book, and he goes into a lot of detail about his father. I think he has there's another servant in the house named Ali that he makes reference to, one of his father's friends. He goes into a lot of detail. So what we'd like you to do for a second part to this discussion post is describe in as much detail as possible your favorite adult. Now this doesn't only have to be the good qualities. This can be the quirks they have, or things that, maybe they're certainly they're positives, but maybe things that make them a unique person, or maybe it could be I don't know, something to that effect. So tell me why this person is your favorite, and then tell a story about him or her. And then as an optional component to this, guys, I think discussion posts are more meaningful if you can actually have a discussion and make comments. So this isn't the same as an in-class situation, but if as people are commenting, you can receive a few extra points on this if you go through and make comment on one or two other people's. Now that doesn't work very well if you all turn this in on Sunday night, but if you try to get it done early and you look through what other people have written, that might make it a little bit more meaningful. Okay, that is that for as far as the groundwork goes. Just to talk a little bit about this book. This book has had a few difficulties. And part of the problem that some people might run into is there's material in here that people might find offensive. Now, for my part, as I've read through this book, I hope that you are offended by what you read. And what I mean by that is I hope you're offended for the right reasons. There's things in here that references that are made and things that happen that are unpleasant. There's things that you would think that 11 and 12-year-old kids should never have to see or experience, but yet they do. So as you read through this book, guys, just keep in mind that part of the reason that we're reading this book is that we want you to, for one, get a sense of a culture that is maybe different than our own. This book was written within, I think, the last 2 decades, and the situation that's described in here isn't much better over in Afghanistan. So just keep that in mind. Our world is not always a pleasant, safe place as it might feel sometimes. That might be ironic for me to say right now as we're dealing with COVID and earthquakes and all that sort of thing. But I hope that as you read it that you do take offense at some of the things you see, because in that way that can help us hopefully can make us be more empathetic and want to do more to help change the world. Actually, there's an interesting part here in the author's note, and this isn't in the electronic version, unfortunately. But Hosseini, I think that's how you say his name. He's a new author to me. I'm unfamiliar. He says, I see the unique ability fiction has to connect people, and I see how universal some human experiences are: shame, guilt, regret, friendship, love, forgiveness, and atonement. Fiction has the power to help us experience and see all those things. And all these things, I think, are pretty predominant within this book. And I don't know how different, if we think about our own lives, that, it would be from ours, at least in that respect. All of us, I think, strive to have love and friendship in our lives. We all have to extend forgiveness or ask forgiveness. We even have to try to atone for things, to make things right, to make things one again. So, as you read this book, again, I would just keep those things in mind. There is a part on page 7. If you have the book, you can go ahead and skip if you feel uncomfortable. There is a part where Amir and Hassan, are walking through an area where there's old derelict tanks and there's soldiers there, and one of them makes a very crude comment about Hassan's mother. So if on page 7 in your book, on like the last part of on the last paragraph, you can go ahead and skip that. I just kind of filled you in what was going on. And this occurs on the electronic version on the top of page 6. So if you want to avoid that, by all means feel free. But otherwise, I don't think there's anything in here that's too horrible aside from that. Just as a last thought, guys, before we close out here, one thing I'd like you to think about as we start this book, this kind of goes into your discussion question, but really think about the narrator's relationship with his father and with Hassan. I think his description of them is so interesting because there's this love-hate relationship between both, and they're for different reasons. So, there's a lot of different themes that we're going to have you look at, but just as a start, this might be something that you might want to think about, just the relationship that our author is establishing with his own father and Hassan. All right. Well, that's all I have, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or Mr. Perry or Mr. Weber, and we can try to alleviate any of your questions that you have. But that's all I have. Thanks, guys.